Wife said she needed space to think. Turns out she was testing life with her ex, so I gave her all the space she needed permanently. I, 33 million, have never been the type to jump to wild conclusions whenever my relationship hits a rough patch. I manage a local restaurant, hang with friends on weekends, and just try to keep life simple. So when my wife, 29F, randomly told me she needed space to think, I figure it was one of those moments where you step back, give each other room, and maybe bounce back stronger later. But wow, I had no clue how sideways things would go. We've been married for 5 years. Things seemed relatively normal, nothing super thrilling, but also no huge red flags one morning. Though she was in the kitchen scrolling on her phone while I was frying up eggs, and out of nowhere, she said she felt confused about our marriage. I tried not to freak out, but that word confused stuck in my head. I asked if I'd done something wrong or if work was stressing her out. She just shrugged and said she needed time alone to figure out how she felt. I was uneasy but tried to be supportive. Suggesting we talk to a counselor, she shot that down, insisting she had to handle it alone. A few days later, she packed a small bag and told me she'd be at her mother's place, me. I didn't push too hard, figuring some time apart might help us both clear our heads. But then a week went by, and she barely answered my calls or texts. Each time she'd just say, "I need more time. Please respect my space." That was the first major sign. Something was way off. I ended up asking my father for advice. He's old school and blunt. He said son space might be code for something else. I wasn't sure if he was being too cynical, but the whole situation felt off. Eventually, I checked our phone bill to see if she made some big call or maybe was dealing with a crisis. I saw a ton of calls and texts to an unknown number, like multiple times a day, sometimes at weird hours. I did a quick reverse lookup and nearly dropped my phone when I saw it was her ex's number. She'd only ever mentioned that ex in passing, calling him just a fling or that jerk I used to date. She never made it seem serious, so now I'm wondering why she's blowing up his phone all day. When I confronted her, she claimed he was going through personal issues and she was just being a friend. I asked why she hadn't told me sooner. She mumbled something about not wanting me to overreact and needing time to figure out her feelings. My gut told me there was more to it, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. For about 5 seconds, we finally agreed to meet at a coffee shop near her mother's place. She arrived looking tense and basically told me she wanted a separation because she didn't know if she wanted to be married anymore. I pressed for details, and that's when it came out that her ex had invited her to stay with him for a while so she could see if their relationship might work better for her than ours. I asked her, "So you're test driving life with him to decide if you want me or him?" She didn't answer directly, just said she needed to figure out what she really wanted. That was a brutal conversation. I remember leaving feeling half numb, half furious. I tried to keep it together, telling myself, maybe she was just having some identity crisis. Maybe it'd blow over, but as the days went by, it only got worse. She was barely communicating with me yet. I could see from the phone records she was in constant contact with X. My father's words kept replaying, "Space is code for something else, son." He was right on the money. After about 2 weeks of this, I was an emotional wreck. I tried focusing on work, managing the staff, balancing orders, handling customers, but my mind was always drifting to the disaster that was my marriage. I finally called her again and said, "We need to talk about what's really going on." She said she was close to moving in with her ex, but hadn't made the final decision. She acted like it was no big deal, like stepping away from our marriage was just part of her personal journey. I was trying hard not to lose my cool, but the anger was definitely there. Then I got a call from Maëlle. She said her daughter had been unhappy for a while, and I should have noticed. I was honestly shocked. This was the first time I'd heard she'd been so miserable. I asked why we couldn't try counseling together. Said my wife had tried counseling on her own before, and it didn't help. I'm guessing my wife spawned the story to her mother in a way that made me look like the jerk who wasn't listening, but I just gritted my teeth and got off the phone. At that point, my father convinced me to see a lawyer, not necessarily to file for divorce that minute, but to understand my rights. It felt harsh, but it made sense. If she was really about to move in with her ex, I needed to know how that might impact me legally. The lawyer told me if she moved out of the marital home to be with someone else, it could count as abandonment, which would be relevant. If things escalated, The whole conversation felt surreal. Never pictured myself in a lawyer's office talking about separation or divorce. A couple days later, I got a simple text from her. I want to stay with him for a bit and see how it goes. My blood was boiling. She was talking about it like she was taking a weekend trip then to add insult to injury. The ex texted me from his own phone, telling me to respect her wishes and not make this harder. I just wanted to chuck my phone across the room. I decided not to respond, figuring he'd love a chance to paint me as some raging husband. He even left a voicemail, claiming that if I truly cared about my wife, I let her do what she needed. He acted like he was the good guy telling me I should back off and give her space. My frustration was through the roof, but I stayed quiet. I started documenting everything, texts, voicemails, just in case my lawyer advised me to keep a record, so I did, sure enough. A couple days later, my wife made it official. She moved in with him. She texted me to say, "Don't worry, it's just temporary," as if that made it any less humiliating. She seemed to think she could test the waters with her ex and then come back to me if she decided he wasn't what she wanted. That's when I realized I was done playing along. If she thought I'd sit around waiting, she was about to get a rude awakening. M called again, urging me to be patient and not to do anything drastic in her mind. My wife was just confused and might come back, but come on. Moving in with an ex is more than confusion. It's a whole new level of betrayal. Then out of nowhere, my wife texted me that she was disappointed in how I was handling things and said I was overreacting by consulting a lawyer. Overreacting, she's living with her ex. And I'm the one overreacting. When I told her I'd already seen a lawyer, she flipped out, claiming I was trying to throw away our marriage, but it sure seemed like she was the one who'd already tossed it aside. I hung up before the argument escalated. Of course, that triggered a flood of messages from her friends and even some random family members. They, ALS said, variations of be a real man, support her self-discovery, or this doesn't have to be final. It was insane. How many people backed her up? Like it was perfectly normal to shack up with your ex to figure out if you still love your husband. A few days went by. I was numb, but also angry. I decided it was time to file for legal separation. I told myself I'd keep that door open for a bit, but if she kept this nonsense up, I'd move to divorce. The lawyer explained how the process worked and that in court, her moving in with her ex would be a huge factor. He warned me that some people in her position might try to flip the script, claiming abuse or something to get sympathy. That freaked me out. So I made sure to have every text and voicemail documented. Meanwhile, I was losing it at work. My employees noticed. I was on edge, snapping at minor mistakes. One of my coworkers, who's basically my right-hand guy at the restaurant, asked if I was okay. I ended up telling him a bit about the situation. He was floored. He said, "That's messed up, man. If she's test driving her ex, that's basically cheating." His words helped me feel less crazy. It was like the first time someone fully validated that, yeah, this was actually messed up. Then my wife's ex decided to leave another charming voicemail, basically telling me I'd better not do anything legal, or he'd spread rumors I was abusive. I forwarded it straight to my lawyer. The lawyer sent him a formal letter, warning him to back off or face a harassment complaint that shut him up for a bit. In the midst of all that, my wife randomly popped up at the restaurant one day. She barged into my office, tears streaming down her face, and demanded I give her a chance to explain. She said she missed me, that she was torn, and she didn't want our marriage to end. I asked how that worked. If she was still living with her ex, she said it was only temporary, that she needed closure with him, and tried to hold my hand. For a second, I felt a wave of sadness, but then I remembered how she lied and left me in the dark. I pulled my hand away and said, "If you wanted to fix this, you'd leave him right now. You wouldn't still be living there while telling me you miss me." She looked at me like I was being unreasonable, then rambled about how she needed to see if she was missing out on something. That sense of entitlement made me snap. I said, "Stop messing with people's lives. If you want him, then go, but don't expect me to be here as your backup plan." She burst into tears, accusing me of being cruel, then stormed out. My staff watched her leave. What? I just told them it was a family issue later that night. I made up my mind. She pushed it too far. She wanted space. I gave her all the space on the planet. I filed for legal separation the next week. It felt weirdly liberating to sign those papers. I wasn't sure if we'd officially divorce, but I knew I couldn't sit around waiting for her to come back from her little experiment. She found out from her mother, who apparently heard it through the grapevine and started blowing up my phone. She accused me of acting out spite, but I told her straight up, "You made your choice when you moved in with your ex." "I'm just protecting myself now," she cried. Said she didn't want to lose me forever, that she just needed a few months to see if things with him were real or not. A few months, I almost laughed at how ridiculous that sounded. Herx, meanwhile, tried calling me again, but I ignored him. Then he texted some trash about me being controlling and insecure. I screenshotted it from my lawyer and blocked his number. I was done playing games with that dude. Things blew up even more when my wife's father, File, and mother showed up at my door demanding I speak to them. Fel was enraged, saying I was humiliating their daughter by making the separation so official. I said she humiliated herself by moving in with her E. They left in a huff, good rids. A few weeks later, my wife demanded one last face-to-face meeting. Before the legal separation was finalized, we met at a small diner near my father's place. She looked rough red eyes, shaky voice. She started off trying to guilt trip me, asking how I could do this to her without giving her a chance to come back. I calmly said, "If you really wanted to come back, you would have left him the moment you realized this was a mistake." She kept saying she was torn, that it wasn't so simple. Then she asked if I leave him. "Now will you take me back for a moment?" I remembered all the good times we'd had, but that moment passed. I told her, "If you left him right away and we worked on things together, maybe, but you stayed with him for weeks while I was begging for honesty, I'm done. I deserve someone who doesn't treat me like a backup plan." She started crying again, but I felt numb. I'd already mourned the marriage, so I said the legal separation is already in motion. "If you want to talk about divorce terms, talked to my lawyer." She accused me of ruining her life, and I just stood up and left some cash for the coffee on the table, telling her, "You got all the space you asked for permanently." After that, everything moved quickly. The separation was granted. She seemed shocked, like she never considered I might actually go through with it. Word around our mutual circles was that the ex showed his true colors when she was living with him. He got possessive and started making demands she didn't like. Apparently, it didn't take long for him to kick her out, and she ended up moving back with her mother. She tried to call me to apologize or something, but I blocked her. If she wants to fix her life, that's her business. Just leave me out of it. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding. I'm pouring myself into the restaurant, hanging out with friends, getting close to my family again. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. I still feel the sting of betrayal when I think about the fact that my wife literally walked out to see if her ex was a better deal. But mostly, I'm relieved that I didn't spend another year or two hoping she'd change her mind. She said she needed space to figure out our marriage and reality. She just wanted to test drive life with her ex while keeping me on the hook. So I gave her all the space in the world. That's how I ended up here, telling whoever's reading this that sometimes the best move is to cut your losses, protect yourself, and refuse to let anyone treat you like a fallback if you're stuck in a similar mess. Trust me, don't let them string you along. The moment someone starts auditioning, other options, it's time to bounce. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but there's a sense of freedom in choosing yourself for once. That's it. That's my little saga. She tested her ex, found out the grass wasn't as green as she thought, and learned I wasn't waiting around for her to decide who she wanted. It's been a roller coaster, but I can finally see a future where I'm not constantly wondering if my wife is happy or if she's still texting her old flame. I'm just done, and it feels weirdly good to say that I'm moving on with my life. While she deals with the consequences of her so-called confusion, good luck. To her, she wanted space, and now she's got enough space for a lifetime.